Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Michelle and this is Michelle Creates. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable, fuzzy, furry beanie. This is a youth size. Okay, this is made out of polyester yarn and it is weight 6. And you can find this stores where you're finding yarn nowadays and Amazon. So many different brands are coming out, so they're all the same, weight 6. Furry yarn. They have so many different colors, so don't get hung up on the actual brand of the yarn. All right, so what I used was, these are supplies. Got the yarn, and because this wasn't a full skein, this was just a ball that I had. I grabbed my bowl and I put the ball in there so it keeps the ball from flying all over the table. This is a 31 peg round loom. Okay, this one came in a kit. Got it online. I've got my, this is the hook. This is the, it's hard to read this, knittingboard.com. I got it online, pack of 2. I made my own number cards, and the rows that I did was 48. Okay, 48 actual rows. Got my little sewing scissors, they're extra sharp, and my knitting needle. That's what you're going to need to do this project. All right. Let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is give myself enough yarn to work with here. Pull out a few of them, okay, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to be going to the right, and I like to have my yarn over to the left behind me, okay, so I can keep it kind of straight. First thing I'm going to do, grab my yarn, I'm going to make a single knot on the end, not leaving too much here, and I want to put this on the starter peg here, or the anchor peg, okay? Starter because it shows me where my beginning is, but it's also an anchor to hold my yarn down. Don't pull it too tight because you're going to want to pull that off after a few rows, okay? Now, going to the right, I'm going to take my yarn, and for this cast on, to get my yarn on the loom to start, I'm going to do an E-wrap, but I'm going to do a double E-wrap for each peg. So taking my yarn, I'm going to go through the first peg and the last peg, go right in the middle to bring it to the inside of the loop, or the loom. Then I'm going to take the yarn and go through the next 2 pegs, okay? And then I'm going to wrap it around to the front, bring it around to the back. So I'm just using this one peg so far. Now, to make it a double E-wrap, I'm going to bring it around to the front again, wrap it around and bring it to the back. To hold this second loop here, I'm going to hold it in the back with my finger. Separate. The first one is a little bit trickier because of the starting it. I want to keep the 2 yarns separate. Grab my hook, and I'm going to grab with the hook the bottom yarn. Okay, so going from the very bottom, hook underneath that yarn, and you're going to pull it up over the top piece of yarn, the top wrap, and pull it over the peg. Okay, that's a yarn over. That's how you get the yarn on your pegs. And then you can take that finger from behind and push that down. Now the next one, go from behind, wrap it around to the front, to the back, push that down because you want to separate your rows so you can hook it, and then wrap it around to the front again, to the back. Hold that piece of yarn back there with your left finger, and then take your hook, grab from underneath only that bottom piece of yarn, and grab it over, pull it over that top piece of yarn and over the peg. That's a yarn over. Okay, and then push it down with your left hand finger, or whichever hand you're using, from inside the loom and behind. Now grab that yarn, go behind, wrap it around to the front, push that down, already behind, bring it around to the front, wrap it, hold it down, grab your hook, or take your hook I should say, because you already have it in your hand, and yarn over. And you're going to keep doing the double E-wrap all the way around. So wrap from behind around to the front, push it down, wrap from behind around to the front, hold it, grab that bottom yarn and yarn over. I like to use the double E wrap here with this fuzzy thicker yarn for this beanie because it makes a nice edge, and because I'm not going to be doing the folded brim, this makes a nicer, tighter, a little bit tighter edge. All right, I think you get the gist. So you're going to pause here and you're going to keep working it, and I'll meet you at the end when we get to that last peg. So as you're going around, you don't want to pull the yarn too tight, just kind of let it be natural around the peg. You don't have to yank it and tighten it. You don't want it, you want to be able to yarn over. So I'm not loosely wrapping it, I'm just nicely letting it go around the peg. So that way you can get that yarn over. Also, with the fuzziness, it's hard to see the two separate, right? So, you know, you got to kind of, sometimes you can just feel around, otherwise you can separate it here, but you want to make sure you hold it down, that yarn back there, hold it tight, because you could have the tendency of grabbing both yarns, or if it's too loose back there, nothing's holding it down, it's going to come off. So just, you know, kind of watch if that's happening to you. That's how you can fix that. Okay, I'm almost there, so I'll meet you at the end. All right, I've got the last peg wrapped. Now we're back at the beginning. I'm still going to keep this knot on here, okay, until I do one more row, just to keep that anchored down. All right, now we're actually on the first row. Okay, so from here, I'm going to do each peg individually, and to keep the shape of the beanie a little bit more snug, not so loose and stretchy, I want to do a U-wrap for each stitch, for each wrap, you know, wrapping around. So I don't want to do an E-wrap because it makes the beanie super stretched out. So from here, I've got the yarn. It went around that last peg here. It's coming from behind. I'm going to pull it through in between the last peg and the first peg, and I'm going to go around to the front on top, of course, and I'm going to just U-wrap. Okay, these are all like shapes of lowercase letters. So you had the E, now I'm going on to the U letter, wrapping from the front to the back. I'm going to hold it down with my fingers back there, and then taking the hook, I'm going to grab the bottom yarn, bottom row, and yarn over. And that's your U-wrap stitch. Now take the same yarn, go to the front, wrap it around to the back, yarn over. Take the yarn, go in between the peg, wrap around front to the back, hold it down and back, and yarn over. Take the yarn in between, go to the next peg, from the front to the back, hold it down, and yarn over. And that is it. Doing each peg individual with the U-wrap. And this one's really easy to control. Your yarn for that row here, it's underneath. I take my U-wrap, I go to the top. That yarn's going to catch on that peg there, so I can grab it. This actually moves fairly quick. So this is where it gets fun, because now you are just cruising along and you feel like you're actually knitting. And you actually are. All right, keep going. Pause here, I suppose, so we can catch up and meet together at the end. And I'll see you on row 2. Okay, row 1 is done. Now I'm going to remove this from the outside peg here, and I want to take the knot out. I don't want to have a knot in my yarn. And this one's real fun to take out because of all the fuzziness. It's hard to pull just the actual yarn and not just pulling on the fuzzy stuff. So I gotta actually find where that yarn, that string is in the middle. All right, so we're going to play with this and try to get this knot out, and I will continue after that. Well, that was fun. All right, so to get this, you don't want it hanging on the outside. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm going to go from the inside here with my hook, and grab onto that piece of yarn hanging there. And we're going to pull it through to the center and let it hang down so it doesn't get in my way. I don't want to get it caught into my stuff here. All right, there's row 1. Now we're going to move on to row 2, and we're going to continue with that U-wrap. Okay, I want to push my yarn down, get my row out of the way here, and I want to feed myself a little bit more yarn to work with so it doesn't slow me down. And now holding my loom, I like to hold it this way, even if whether I'm doing a video or not, I like to hold it up. I don't like to have it on the table. Here, I can see it better. All right, and using both hands, I'm gonna U-wrap from front to back and continue on with row 2. All right, so you're gonna keep going, same thing around and around. And because, like I said, I'm using scrap yarn, I don't know how many rows I'm going to end up doing. I'm probably going to use up the yarn. Looks like it's just about the right amount. I can kind of eyeball it to see if it's getting too long or long enough, whatever. I can also measure it too. So just continue doing this, and I'll let you know about how much you want to have for the right size beanie. Okay, so I got 48 rows out of this yarn. So the next part I'm going to do, okay, and I can tell it's a good size beanie. It's cute how that curls up at the bottom. All right, so 48 rows, and the next part I'm going to do is get this off of the loom. So we're going to do the cast off. All right, this is the cast off that will cinch your beanie at the top. So what I'm going to do is push my row up to the top of the pegs to get the yarn ready. All right, now taking my working yarn and my hook, I'm going to take the yarn and go underneath the row. So it's going to go below it. Okay. And what I'm going to do is take my hook and go from the yarn that's on the peg. I'm going to go from the top and hook that. And then I'm going to take this yarn below, okay, and I'm going to grab that yarn with my hook, and I'm going to pull that yarn up through that yarn that's on the peg, and I'm going to pull it all the way through. So what this is going to do is attach all these loops together that are on the pegs, and it's going to keep it free flowing so I can cinch the hat. So next peg, take the hook from the top, grab the yarn, go below it, grab that yarn with your hook, pull it through that yarn that's on the peg, and then keep going all the way around. So grab that hook, okay, hook underneath the top row, pull that beneath, under it, and, or below it, let's say below, and then pull that yarn through. Hook the top yarn, push that below, grab it with your hook, pull it all the way through, and keep doing this all the way around until you get to that last peg. Just going to keep doing a few more so you can watch, and then maybe try a couple, see how it's going. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to pause the video, and then we'll meet together at the last peg. Just giving you a few more to watch here. This pulls through really nice and smooth. All right, hopefully you get the gist. So pause this, keep working, and I'll meet you at the end. All right, I did the last one here. Okay, now it seems like I have a lot of yarn left here, but in actuality, it was not going to go all the way around one more time to be able to do one more row, as in 49 rows. It wasn't enough yarn. So you're left with this much yarn. At least I'm left with this much yarn. Oh well. Next part, what I'm going to do is take all of the yarn off of the pegs. So I'm just going to grab each from underneath and just pull it off of the peg. Okay, pretty quick. Once you get into the groove of getting that hook into the groove, it turns into be a little pattern. It's pretty quick. All right, loom is done. Setting that aside. Next thing you're going to do is grab the yarn and you're going to start to cinch this together. So like a drawstring here, I am pulling it. Now because it's fuzzy and thick, you're going to want to kind of push it along to the end here. Okay, meaning feed it through a little bit. Get these puckers pushing that towards the end of it. Okay, here's the beginning where I'm pulling it. Here's the end. Okay, sometimes you have to do that, sometimes not. I just gave you that just in case you do have to do that. All right, now we're getting to the part now where it's closing up pretty decent. This is the actual outside of the beanie. It's the good side, so I'm going to tuck all this in. So I just want to grab this yarn from the inside of the beanie and pull that through. Then we're going to turn this inside out to take care of this extra yarn here and close up this hole. All right, so pull as much as you can. You don't want to, you know, pull it to rip it. I don't know, I've never ripped yarn before, but chenille polyester sometimes can pull some of the fuzzies off when you do that. This is completely sealed. Okay, what I'm going to do next is grab my needle, my plastic needle. I'm not going to cut this shorter to do this. I'm just going to leave this long and sew this through, and then I'll cut it, and then that will be my leftover. I don't want to guess how much yarn I need for this, so I'm just going to leave it the full length. Okay, this could be a little tricky to get in here. Just got to shove it in and then just start pulling. I'm trying to get the actual yarn itself, that thread that's in the middle. Haha, not just fuzzies. So I think I'm going to fold it back a little bit here on the end. And I usually can get this in pretty quick, but not right now for some reason. Pulling in the middle here. There we go. Okay, it's in. And don't leave too much here on the end. You don't want it to be too thick here while you're sewing this through. All right, so it is cinched. It's stuck. It's not opening back up. But what I want to do is secure this yarn down so this hole doesn't open back up for some reason. Maybe if they're wearing it or you're laundering it, who knows. All right, so we're going to weave it under. It's super hard to see because of the fuzziness of it. The hole is like right there, so I'm going really close to that hole. And I'm just going under like 2 or 3 stitches and pull this through. We want to close that hole, and also just we're securing it. Now I'm going to skip a couple stitches, 2 or 3, and then go to the next, go under a couple, pull that through. You really don't have to do much with this particular yarn and this beanie. Other yarns you may have to do, you know, all the way around and go across. You just kind of have to figure out with each project you're doing what you want to do. There is no set formula or pattern. It's like art. Do what you want, do what works, do what looks nice. Okay, I'm going to do one more. Just turning that a little. Find out where it's coming out of. I don't want to go all the way across for some reason. I just don't want to do that. All right, and I want to grab the yarn itself, not just the fuzzy. All right, that would be my last one that I'm going to basically sew through or weave. Now I'm going to grab the closest stitch next, one, go underneath, but I'm going to not sew that or pull it through. I don't want to pull it through completely. I want to leave a loop, about that much. Then I'm going to stick the needle through that loop, and this is going to now start to knot this yarn. And you want to make sure it pulls all the way through. Sometimes it twists and then it doesn't want to pull through, and so you're left with this big loop. There we go. And I'm going to do one more. Yeah, it knotted right there. It's left with a little bit of loopy there, but this is the inside, so I'm not concerned about that. Can't really see it. All right. One more time. You've got a loop here. I'm going to go smaller on that one. Stick that needle through the loop. Pull it through. And it is knotting up and sticking. And I'm going to cut this off. Leave about 1.5 inches. Yes, I have extra yarn, but what do? I'm just going to throw it away. All right, then, and we're still got this inside out. Now we have this beginner yarn here, and it is because of that knot. Because of the twist, whatever. From the beginning, it's twisted in, so it's secure. What I want to do is weave this in up the hat. Okay, so let's say, you know, it has a natural roll to it a little bit. They might want to fold it up. So you want to hide this inside here. Gosh, honestly, you could cut this shorter or just tuck it in. This could be worn either way. You've got the yarn, the knit showing vertical that way, and then here doesn't have much definition. Cute. Could be reversible. So what I'm going to do is take this end here, and I'm going to find the closest stitch. I don't want to skip too far to leave a loop, if you know what I mean. You don't want to catch anything with your finger as you're touching it or pulling it on. I'm going to go right up here, grab a loop. Now I kind of want to weave this in, and I'm going to watch my needle. I like that these are bright color plastic needles, because what I can do is, and I'm going up into the hat, I'm going to look on both sides to see if I see the needle poking through. That means I'm on the inside of the stitch. So I'm on the inside. I'm hiding that yarn. So I'm going to pull that up. I'm not going to pull too tight. See, I don't want to cinch that up. I'm going to keep it flat, like as if when you wear it, you want it to be the way it's going to be laying on the head, or fitting on the head. Got a little fuzzy there, and I want to go up more. The more you secure it, the less likely you are to pull this out. And of course, if it comes out, it can be, you can use a needle. Anybody can do that, or a crochet hook to weave that back in. No big deal. And I think that's up high enough. So, and it's completely hidden, of course. So from here, I'm going to cut this pretty close to the end here. I want to be careful not to cut a stitch, you know. So, and it will blend, so I'm going to leave just a tiny bit, just to be on the safe side. All right, now we're going to go back to right side out the way it's intended because of the loom. Can't even really see a back. And here is your beanie, youth size, okay? It's got a natural roll from that nice edging. It's got a nice stretch to it. I'm going to measure this just to give you another guideline of sizing. There's no perfect size, but for the length of this, starting on the crown here to the rolled edge, it's about 7.5 inches. It can be, you know, if it's a smaller head, it can be rolled up a little bit and then they can grow into it. Super cute. All right, there you go. There's your fuzzy polyester yarn loom knit beanie, youth size, children's size. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. I hope you guys have a great time doing this. You can find this fuzzy yarn online or the stores. It doesn't have to be a certain brand. There's so many brands coming out now, especially on Amazon. Just grab they're all the same, polyester, fuzzy yarn, furry yarn, whatever. There's so many colors coming out, so just grab whatever you can find. It's weight 6, so they're all the same. But thank you so much for watching. I know I already said that. If you have any questions or comments, please leave that below regarding this project. And I hope to see you in the next video.